to get you on. Like I said, I was telling a few of my students the other day, and they're like, "Ooh, that's gonna be a good one."
I hope. I can do what I can.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, if I keep drinking these, then it'll be even better. Quality will come out.
You get proper wild.
Oh, man. I got the Heine. You see that picture of Paige that she posted?
Page Van Zant?
Yes.
I have not.
Jesus, man.
Tell me all about it.
That's just, it's better to see for yourself. It's phenomenal.
Uh-oh.
Phenomenal.
This Instagram we're talking?
It is. It is. It's already kind of breaking the internet at the moment. So.
Oh man, let me pull my phone out here.
Yeah, please do. You'll thank me.
Page Van, not Michael Page.
different.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There she is. Okay. Yep. There's all of Page.
Yeah.
Why would that break the internet? It's only just like
in two new things she just purchased.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I don't follow her chest closely enough.
Yeah, you're not following close enough.
All right. Well, we're about to go live here. Let me switch the screen over for the ye old viewers.
Yeah, they don't even say Reebok anymore. It just says Ebo because the R and the K are at the ends.
All right, guys, we're here live. Episode 4 of You, Me, and Us. We've got a fantastic guest today in McDojo Life, Rob from McDojo Life. He's been at it forever, but killing it, especially lately. So I'm super excited to have him on. How's it going today, Rob?
Life is good. Life is good. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to chit chat about anything we chit chat about.
Oh yeah, we can shoot the shit like the best of them. I already see you've got your shit shooting lube going. Got that beer up in you?
I do. I'm gonna just keep these going, and I hope that Heineken will sponsor Rob. No, because they're delicious.
Yeah, so tell me, like, are you being run down at the door by sponsorship offers now that Joe Rogan's blowing you right off the face of the planet?
I've had quite a few. Like, but just some of them don't fit. You know, it's like that has nothing to do with what I do, so I don't.
Yeah, there's always those, right?
Yeah, it's like that doesn't make a lot of sense. So like, I'll sell, but it's gonna have to be like I'm not selling my soul. You know, like want to have some integrity in this game. You know, like my current sponsor, just since we're talking about sponsors, why not Jitsu? You know, like we don't, it's a big exchange. Like it's not like that. It's more like I hit them up and I was like, I like the name of your soap because I think the shit's funny. It sounds a lot like something else. So I was like, what I'd like to do is just like maybe do some commercials with your soap and stuff. We've been really, really cool with that. So I just think it's fun, you know?
Yeah. So for the people that don't know what's been going on for the last couple weeks now? Couple weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks now.
Yeah, why don't you fill them in?
You know, basically what's going on is I got a pretty interesting shout out. I've had a few from him at this point, but I got a pretty interesting shout out from Joe Rogan. It's like a 7-minute thing on his podcast, which is kind of an odd thing to think that somebody is paying attention to your stuff. Even though they're like you consider them like an upper echelon, I guess you could say, of being in the arts and having that amount of authority. I guess authority is the word, or influence in the arts.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of cool that no matter who it is, Joe Rogan and whatnot, but no matter who it is, just to know that there's another martial artist out there who respects what you do is incredible to hear. And it's been going really, really well because of that. And, you know, I got a lot going on, man. I'm going to be doing a video with Master Ken in like 3-4 weeks now.
Nice.
So that's really cool. I'm excited about that. That dude is awesome. Just as a human being in general, like he's cool. And then I tried to do something with Jess in camp the other day from Karate by Jess, but our video kept messing up. So I was like, fuck that. I'm just going to go find a way to meet this dude whenever he's back in the States.
Oh, where is he from?
He's from Sweden, I think. Sweden. But now we're about to start the McDojo Tour. So I'm going to be doing 3 cities where I go to the city and I try to call out some bullshittery in the city. I'm just going to go set up a trial class in the cities. record everything, record the phone call for the trial class, record going, setting up the class, going to the class, record taking the class. And then, of course, at the end, discuss with them, what we feel is inappropriate in what they're doing. A lot of people think that we're just going to go in there and beat people up, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like a good martial artist still gets beat, so that doesn't prove anything. Like Anderson Silva has lost,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he has lost. These are great martial artists, but if you can talk to them and maybe pull out some of the crazy, like, yo, why are you doing this? And what are your thoughts behind this? And basically have a discussion. And it gives them a chance to not only defend themselves, which makes it more legal to film them, and more reason for them to agree to being filmed, but it also gets you an opportunity to really get some insight into what they're believing, which is hard because I think they're fucking out of their mind, but they might not think they are.
Yeah, so you've been at this for a while, and by at this, I mean like finding all of these nonsense martial artists. And first of all, I can't understand how you aggregate so many so often. It's A, impressive, and B, depressing at the same time that there's so many of them out there. But again, impressive that you find them all and you get all these videos. It's just endless hours of watching entertainment if you want to watch people that are completely delusional, think they know how to do martial arts. Um, but so you've been at this for a while. Is there like at this point, your favorite time you've called somebody out on their bullshit?
Oh man, that's actually a really good question. I haven't had that one yet. So my favorite time that I called somebody out on their bullshit was some studio in Australia. There were three. They had 3 or 4 locations in Australia, and I posted a video of a gentleman who was knocking someone out with like one of the pressure point techniques.
Okay.
And it was like something that couldn't possibly knock someone out. Like, I'm sorry, no matter how delusional the person is, like obviously it's an act. So I posted it, and I only posted that guy's name. I didn't post anything else. Like, I usually only post like a sentence because I like to leave it satirical and let people make up their own minds. I don't want to influence their thought process on this because I want people's real opinions. Which I had something interesting happen today, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But so I posted just the guy's name and the picture, which is funny because that exact same video is on YouTube. All I did was take the video and take his name and put him together and put him up there. That's it. So this is already something that he's already posted himself, right? But when I post it, people take a look at it differently. It's kind of like when somebody who's not a comedian tells a joke and it's not very funny, but then a comedian gets on stage and says the same thing and it's hilarious, right? So it's like that. Well, I posted that and I go about my day, which is what I usually do. I'll interact when I can. And then the next day, I go to look at my messages. So I try to answer as many as I can. Sometimes it's hard, but one of the students of a guy who knows that guy hit me up, and he was just cussing at me. And so I couldn't help but poke at him. So I was like, just answering, kind of poking at him a little bit, but every time he would answer me, he was cussing me out. Like, he would answer whatever the question was and cuss me out. And then finally I was like, okay, so this is gold. So I took the entire conversation and I posted it on our Facebook. I think this is right when I just started Instagram, but on my Facebook, I'd already had a following. So I posted it on my Facebook, and I posted his instructor's address to his studio, all the addresses. I posted his instructor's phone number to all those studios. I posted the Google Maps of where they were located. I posted the student and the entire conversation. And I said something to the effect of, is this what you're teaching your students to do? And I posted it. Well, again, I go about my day, and I look back, and it was like one of my hardest hitting like posts. I had like 4 million views in 4 hours. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, dude, I didn't expect it to do that because I wasn't nearly as big as I am now. But then I was like, dude, that's amazing. Well, his instructor immediately hit me up. And he was like, you need to take this down because it's slander or something like that. And I was like, no, not going to do it because it's not. I was like, he came onto my page. These are my conversations. He was I'm not hitting him up. He's hitting me up. So I was like, I'm not going to take him down. And all of this stuff is true. He is your student. These are your locations. And that's all I posted. So then he begged. He pleaded with me. He goes, dude, I'm so sorry. I've come to find out he kicked that student out of his school completely. Just kicked him out because of that. And they went from like a 4 to 5 star review to like a 1-star review. Because they are posting bullshit, shiesty stuff. Good. That's what I believe. I think that if that's the shit you believe in, that you can knock people out with your fucking mind, you do not deserve a seat at the table. So that was my ultimate goal anyway. But then he was like, will you take it down now? And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take it down if you both apologize to me. And so they did. So I posted a picture. I don't know if you ever watched South Park or not, but there's an episode where Stan's dad cusses and he actually drops the N-bomb during Wheel of Fortune. And he has to apologize to Jesse Jackson Jesse Jackson pulls down his pants and tells him to kiss his ass basically to apologize. So I posted a picture of him kissing Jesse Jackson's ass, and then I posted both of their apologies instead.
That is a seriously gangster move.
Fuck them. Like, I'm just saying, like, if they're going to act and behave in such a manner, and they're going to allow their students to act and behave in such a manner without any forward apology right off front, then obviously they're not doing their job. Well, obviously, they can't take care of every student's actions. I get that. But if you're going to attack me like that, I'm going to attack you back. You know?
Well, like you said, it's their own video. Like, they were the ones that posted it. It's clearly nonsense. So this is karma coming around. I feel like you embody you're the how does the saying go? You're the hero that the martial arts community deserves.
I don't know about all that. I'm just a guy who gives a shit. And I talked about this earlier on a different podcast I was on, but I thought it was kind of important. So hopefully you don't mind if I bring it up.
Yeah, go for it.
But we always put these martial arts instructors on pedestals, and we forget that they're just people. They're just people. So I get that people make mistakes, right? There's nothing wrong with making a mistake. If you fucked up and you did something wrong, that's okay, right? I get that, right? But there are certain lines that we should draw as instructors. And one of those is that line. Like, you can't lie to your students in such a way that will get them hurt. Like, I don't mind if you have a felony. All right, you had a felony, you made a mistake in the past. That can happen to a lot of people. But then, as long as you're teaching legit, you're trying to go down a good path to teach your students something right, hey man, you're atoning for your mistake. You're trying to make your life better, right? So I can't hold that against you. But if you're trying to paint yourself as this very polished and well-mannered and well-groomed person who's lying to your students and being shiesty, then fuck you. Like, you're lying. You're just lying. You're just packaging it differently. That's all, you know?
Yeah. There was a black belt up here, actually a very talented black belt, who went on a rant on Facebook in our local scene here after there was I don't know if it was local or not, but there was a gym he was basically calling out for teaching shit jiu-jitsu. I don't know where they were, quite honestly, but I'm pretty sure the head instructor was a blue belt, and I think he got it online.
Okay.
So this is kind of the base that we're talking about here, and he basically accused him of, you're going to be responsible for if any of your students get beat up because you're teaching them shit. Like, yeah. he saw videos of techniques being posted that were incorrect and that could actually put you into worse danger. And like he's like, it's bad enough that you're taking money from these people, but it's worse that you're endangering them. You're giving them a self-confidence they don't deserve.
Yeah, I see. I've had that particular question brought up. Like, should instructors be responsible for their students' safety? I think that maybe your instructor should take ownership in some way, in some part. But like, I'm not gonna lie, like, not every black belt is as good as other black belts. It doesn't mean that their like technique is fucking terrible. It just means that they're just less talented than someone else. Like, Freddie Roach can't box right now, but does that mean that he can't teach boxing? You know, so you have like these people. Or there's another guy I follow on Instagram. His name is Wheelchair Jitsu. I don't know if you follow him or not.
Actually, I know a guy who competes against him a lot. Pete McGregor up here in Canada.
Yeah, but the dude's like, you know, from the waist down, he can't move his legs. So like, would you be angry that he can't do guard? Would he not be able to teach it though? You know, that kind of thing is always like something that's in my mind. You know, like when it comes to the responsibility of an instructor is to teach. You know, if you're not great, that's okay. But as long as you're a great teacher, that's important.
Well, here's the difference of what I'm talking about is, you know, do you remember that video that was going viral for bad reasons a little while ago this year of, I think it was, I don't know if it was Forbes or Vice or somebody who was outside of the martial arts world, had basically a fitness instructor, a woman teaching self-defense moves that are god-awful. So this is what I mean. Like, you're teaching stuff that's going to get people hurt.
Yeah, like, I think that if you're teaching, because I'm a fan of martial arts in general, like all martial arts, I really am. I love all of it. I love every art. I think that they all have some type of a place other than the no touch shit. But because think about it, like without Aikido, you got no Steven Seagal. Without Steven Seagal, you don't get Under Siege. And Under Siege is fucking awesome. Right? And then, without Kung Fu, you don't get shitty Kung Fu movies, which we all love. Without what else? Without Capoeira, you don't get that movie Only the Strong. And that movie's great too from back in the day. So the thing is like there's martial and then there's art. And it's okay if you have a lot of martial. Like MMA has a lot of martial, right? It's a lot of like combat tested, battle proven. Yeah. But then like those people are shitty actors, like great actors. So he's losing the art part, right? Now it's art when he elbows somebody in the temple. That's beautiful. But then you have other places that are just art. Like you have like tricking, like acrobatic kicking, right? That stuff is beautiful. It's very cool when you see somebody like Raymond Daniels who can actually pull that shit off in the ring on people.
Sure.
It's a gorgeous thing. But, you got to understand like some of these people aren't in it because they want to fight people all the time and be good at that. But they entertain the fuck out of us. So that's cool. But as long as you're not packaging it that way, as long as you're not packaging the art as martial, that's fine. So like, yo, we do this. This is what we do. Be upfront and don't lie. Hey, I'm cool with that. As long as you're entertaining, make a fucking movie. I've watched John Wick fucking 8 and he's backflipping and shit. I'll take all that, right? But just be honest with your students. That's all I ever care,
I'd like to get you in a debate versus Meryl Streep about art and jiu-jitsu and martial. I think that she kind of lit our particular niche on fire. You remember her statement about how
I don't remember word for word, but I do remember it was derogatory.
It definitely landed harder on the ears of the people that it was meant to be bad towards. Like she mentioned football as well. All the martial artists didn't care that she was shitting on football, but they're like, hey, there's art in martial arts and blah blah blah.
Well, there is art. I mean, it's like it's like saying interpretive dance is not art. Like they're moving their body in a certain way. We're doing the same thing. We're just moving other people's bodies.
I think her quote though said the arts, which I think is just like a trade term for acting, right?
Yeah. Well, fuck her.
Yeah, she old. I don't care.
No one loves you. You're adopted.
That's the beer talking. It's starting to come out.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But I still have plenty more. I'm almost there.
So you're super busy right now. You said you got 2 more coming up, 2 more podcasts right away. So has this been like a steady climb, or has this just all been in the last 3 weeks?
No, it's been a slow, steady climb. I mean, I've done a couple things on my own that kind of boosted me to where I was before. Mm-hmm. So like I had the sparring match between the chick and the dude a while back. So that was huge. That was a really big deal. I had a couple articles written. I had a couple news stories done about that. So that was neat.
Well, fill people in on that because I don't want to gloss that one over. That was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, basically there was a guy who actually was a friend of a friend. Who I knew. I thought he was always cool with me and cordial in person, but when he gets online, he almost has like this persona of being a huge dick. So I posted a video of the video you were talking about earlier. Okay. The chick from Business Insider teaching how to escape a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all of this is wrong. Every last thing she is saying is completely 100% inaccurate. I was like, don't follow that. Go to an actual martial arts studio. Learn real technique. And then that's what I posted. Well, he got on there and he was like, it's kind of ridiculous to think that a woman can beat a man at all anyway. And I was like, well, I know a lot of women who can hold their own against a man who has not been trained. Because typically guys who are trained, not all the time, but typically guys who train don't typically go out and rob women. Like they don't need to rob them because they can obviously afford martial arts classes, that kind of thing. So I just argued with him a little bit and he just kept going. And finally, he kind of painted himself into a corner when he said a statement. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, basically, even if it was him versus a pro female MMA fighter, it would still be 80% in his favor, 80-20 in his favor. And I was like, I couldn't help it at that point because he didn't know that I ran that page, our McDojo Life. So I was like, this is gold. I was like, I got to use this shit. So I was like, okay, would you be willing to prove that? And he said, yes, that's all I needed, right? That's it. He said, yes, but you'll never find a woman who'd be willing to fight me. Took the entire conversation, the entire thing. I chopped it up, immediately put it on McDojo Life. I was like, all right, I'll put up $2,000 of my own money for anybody to go, any pro fighter, pro or amateur, to come up and take this dude. He weighs this much. This is the weight class. We'll put it together, right? So it was supposed to be a sparring match, which is what it wound up being anyway. It's a sparring match. So I didn't actually wind up putting up any of my money because our fans are so fucking awesome. They donated all.
Nice.
Like I started a GoFundMe because I realized it was going to cost way more than that for everything. I was like, there's airfare, there's hotel fees. It cost a lot of money to do.
Yeah.
Like, and as a matter of fact, people are like, oh my God, you made so much money on that. Cause I think we raised like $5,000 because when they actually got into the room together to have the sparring match, unfortunately, the city came in, the police came in and they shut it down before it ever started, the first match. And I was like, oh, fuck. And they were concerned that I was breaking the law, which I didn't. So fuck them. But they were concerned that was what was happening. But I didn't spend any money. It was all donated. So, and all of that got dispersed where it was supposed to get dispersed. And I made nothing because I had to pay again out of my pocket to get them to go to another state to do it again. And I flew them both out. Or no, I didn't fly them both out, but they got flown out there. I got flown out, hotels again, all that shit. So the funny thing is like by the time everything was said and done, the only reason I even kept going was because I told my people I would. I told my followers that I would make this happen. So I reached into my own pocket after it was said and done and paid to make it happen. Well, he wound up getting there and he was like all about, that was interesting because they both wanted to do the same tactic. So it didn't look like an MMA sparring match. It kind of turned into a little bit more of a grappling match, which was interesting. She didn't want to stand up and strike with him because he's a man and he looked very in shape and fit and strong dude. She was concerned that there might be a chance he might one off and get a knockout. So she was concerned about that. So she was like, my goal, she told me separately, her goal was to take him down and to use jiu-jitsu. And I was like, that's smart. Then me and him were on an Uber ride to the thing together, which was very awkward because he was talking to me and we were talking shit to each other relentlessly. But then when we got in front of each other, we were really cordial and cool. It was like we were homies again, right? But like up to this point, I was just hoping he would get fucking manhandled by this girl, of course. But all in the name of science, which is cool. So he winds up, we're riding in the Uber car and he tells me, he's like, yeah, man, I because of the internet and stuff like that, he was like, I don't think I want to just hit her because it's going to make me look bad. He was like, it's not going to really prove my point if I just hit her and knock her out. He goes, I want to kind of embarrass her. He goes, I think I'm just going to out-muscle her. I think I'm going to take her down and hold on to her and prove that jiu-jitsu doesn't work. And I was like, yeah, you should do that. So, of course, then they wind up getting in front of each other and they're both thinking takedown. So it looks like neither one are really throwing like really any serious striking. And then they both shoot in for takedowns. And it just becomes this cluster. And I give him all the credit in the world. He was able to, because he was training, even though he said he was not training jiu-jitsu, he was training with somebody. So then he got to her back. He tried to sink in a rear naked choke, but this is the white belt mistake he made. He tried to put everything he had into that rear naked choke. Well, her chin was down and she's defending the choke. So he's burning his arms out. And then finally he gasps. Like it was like a release. And then as soon as he did, boom, she shot up. She was able to get out of that position, got the side control. As soon as she got the side control, after 5 minutes of them sparring, she got the side control. He immediately quit. He was like, you can see it all online. It's on our YouTube page. But he immediately quit. He was like, all right, man, I'm done. And he was like, I can't breathe. And then I was like, no, man. I was like, I shut the cameras off and we were like, yo, dude, it's not going to be like that. I was like, it's been a long time. It was a big buildup. Like we had to go to another state for it. I was like, I refused for it to end like that. So he was a good sport. Like I give him all the fucking credit in the world. He showed up like people thought he would not do. He not only showed up once, but showed up twice because he could have buried me. The first time that the match didn't happen, he could have just gotten on his fucking page and like recorded the whole thing and been like, yeah, see, I told you it wouldn't happen, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And that could have been, and we would have looked really bad. But I give him credit. He showed up and he showed up again to go to the next state. So kudos to him for at least standing up for what he believed in and going through with it, right? But then the second round, I was like, dude, you got to do it again. He was like, I don't feel so good. I'm a little nauseous. I was like, hey, man, hey, you agreed. I was like, we got to finish this right. I was like, we're not finishing this until there's a submission. Okay, so he shook it off. He got a little water, got back in there fairly quickly after that. And then you could tell the second round, he is gassed. Yeah. Well, all she did was defend a rear naked choke. So she was fine. So of course he shot in. He said he tried to do man, what the hell was the role? He tried to do some type of like high level BJJ stuff that he'd never done before in his life. And then when he tried this role, like he basically lined up like shooting in and giving her side control. And of course she was able to shoot in, get an arm bar, and then he tapped. And then we had a nice conversation at the end of it, because I think that that's the important part, is the understanding of the mentalities. Why are we doing this and stuff like that? So it was pretty nice. The whole thing worked out in the end, but it was the most stressful shit I have ever done in my life, because everything went wrong. First fighter pulled out, had to find a second one on Thanksgiving. Second fighter pulled out. All right, now I had to find another fighter. I finally found another fighter, right? And then we finally make it happen. 2 days before we're supposed to do it, my venue was like having second thoughts. So I was up till 3 a.m. trying to find another vendor in 3 days. So I was able to pull some strings and make the first vendor happen. And I was like, dude, you're fucking killing me. Then I get there the day of or the day before, and I'm like, go online to like, hey guys, we're here, and do a live with everybody. Facebook shut me down for a copyright infringement from a year before that. So a day before the fucking fight's supposed to happen, I'm supposed to air this on Facebook Live. Facebook shuts me down for copyright infringement. So I was like, fuck. So then finally I was like, all right, I figured out a way around it, because luckily I set up an event. So I basically just figured out a way to copy and paste the live stream from another page that I set up. And then we just made it happen, man. But I felt so bad. Luckily, by the time I got my Facebook back up and running, I had over 250 inbox requests. And I answered every one of them. And every one of those people, there was not one person angry. Every one of those people said thank you. I was expecting to get thrown over the coals for the way that everything went down.
Yeah.
Nobody was angry. Out of the entire people who donated to the GoFundMe page, most of them said thank you. And only one person, the day of when the fight did not happen, asked for a refund. And I gave it to them immediately. So it worked out really, really well. I have the fucking best followers on the planet. You know, they just had faith, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think you're the hero that the martial arts community deserves, because you remember the show back in the day, I think it was on Much Music, Bully Beatdown with Jason Mayhem Miller. It broke my heart when they stopped making those episodes, and this feels like reminiscent of those wonderful episodes where the guy who just thought he was going to crush the big bully, thought he was going to crush this fighter, just gets completely embarrassed.
Yeah, I used to love that. My favorite one, I think, is when Mayhem Miller actually got in the ring himself.
Yeah, that was funny. He came in as the announcer and then like showed he was putting gloves on, or showed he had gloves on, and then away they went. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, man, I love all that. I love anything martial arts, man. I think that us as a community should always be leaning on each other, because it's a small pond. People don't really realize how small this community really is. You see it on TV and it's glorified and stuff, but I mean, a lot of everyday guys train with world champions. You can almost walk into half the MMA gyms or professional Muay Thai gyms or anything like that and just run into somebody famous. It's a small niche community. And I think that as long as we rely on each other and we try to make our bond strong, that these bullshit artists, they won't be able to do it, because we'll check them. It's like you open up a studio. I want them to be scared and worried that shit is going to get to them. That's the biggest thing. If you open up a school, right, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you opening a school. If there's nothing wrong with you, in my opinion, I think you could be the head instructor of your own martial arts little community as a fucking blue belt. I don't care. If that's what you're going to do, as long as you're teaching what you know, right? But when you start pulling stuff out of your ass and lying to your students, or you're a blue belt, pretend to be a black belt, that's a problem. Because not everybody can afford like classes, and it's a shame to steal that away from them. So if your friend is training, he's a purple belt, and he's giving you private lessons on the side, well, what's stopping him from teaching like 5 or 6 private lessons? He's still teaching his knowledge, as long as he's upfront and honest. That's all that matters.
So I find that the most exciting for me videos that you guys post, or I guess it's just you, Rob, is that right?
Well, I have a couple guys that work with me.
Okay.
But I am, I guess you could say, like the figurehead. In my opinion, I'd like to think that everybody who follows me is a part of what I do.
Aww.
Because they're the people who really help. They like reach out. They tell me about studios. They send me videos.
Yeah.
Like they do a lot of hunting for me. like originally it was me on my phone going, fuck, I can't find anything
Right.
new.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring with the aggregation. Like, you have to have help with this because there's so many of them. How do you find them yourself? But it makes sense that people send them to you once they know where to send this shit. So again, for me, the most exciting ones are the ones that are so blatantly Jedi no touch nonsense that like you almost want to laugh and cry at the same time. Now, when do we get to see those type of dojo storms? I don't mean like violent dojo storms, but just walk into a place that has this no touch master and tell him to no touch knock you out and it doesn't work. Those are the videos I want to see.
Well, see, this is the hardest part about doing this. One, I want an audience to see it. There's no point in me calling people out if there's nobody to actually see them being called out, because then it would just be white noise. No one would know that they're shysters. So the hardest part has been trying to build enough people to share this when it does happen. Because if I did it when I only had 100 followers, no one would fucking care. The 100 followers would be the only ones who know. But now that I have a little bit better of an audience, it's time to start pushing a little harder.
Ooh.
The hardest part about that is you have to get these people to actually agree to doing it. That's tough because there's a lot of laws about slander and libel. There's a lot of laws about being able to film people without their permission. Every state is completely different. So it's more of like the lawyer up time kind of thing, because I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. I don't give a fuck. I'll find a way to make it happen. But I have to get them to agree. And I think the best way to get them to agree is just be a little bit more respectful about what they're doing. Where everybody online, a lot of my followers are like, yeah, when are you going to beat those dudes up? It's like, you got this wrong. Like, I'm not just going to go beat them up. I want them to explain to me why that shit is so crazy. Like, I want them to tell me in their mind how they justify it. Because if they can just do that, they expose themselves. I don't have to do anything. I can just sit in a chair and chit chat like Dr. Phil. And as soon as they spew the nonsense, I go, okay, that's all I need. Shake their hand and leave. And then as soon as I post it, boom, I guarantee you they're done. That's all I need. I just need them to explain the crazy.
So now, in your mind, in your opinion, since you're around this stuff a lot, you get to see and interact with these people online a lot. How many of them, if you were to say a percentage out of 100, are A, completely delusional, or B, know that they are pulling the wool over their students' eyes?
See, that's a tough question. That's a good question. I think it's like 50-50.
Really?
So you would like to think it's more in the, I think all of us sane people would like to think that it's more them pulling the wool. Yeah. Because at least you can say that that person's sane because they know what they're doing. But then if you look at some of these videos that are going on, especially overseas, where these no-touch masters are accepting MMA fights with these guys, you can't tell me they don't believe their own hype, because they're willing to put everything on the line in front of all of these people that they can do it. And I mean, those people honestly believe their shit. So I think it's like a mantra, in my opinion. You know, they just say it over and over and over again. And then one day they don't remember that it's a lie. They just go, oh, well, you know, this is true because I've said it's true for fucking 30 years. Well, now I believe it. And then now it's stuck. It's like somebody who, I don't know if you remember that one of that lady who pretended she was black at the NAACP. Do you remember that lady?
I remember the story vaguely.
Yeah, but she was basically like a high up in the NAACP. She was a white lady, 100% white, and she pretended to be black, right? And then she was like, well, whatever, like I am that or whatever. It's like, no, you're really not. But I think what happened was she told that lie so many times that in her head, it just became true. And I think it's very similar to like a cult mentality, because it's very cultish. Yeah. It's, I'm the leader and I have all of these followers. How do I get them to follow me? Well, usually it's charisma. It's, I'm giving you something no one else is giving you. So when they provide that bravado and that charisma and they get in front of all these people and they start teaching their stuff, they probably look around and go, what's going to make me different from everyone else? Well, I'm not very good at martial arts. This is my outlet. You know what people can't do, though? I take this and I take this. I'm going to take all of these charts, these pressure point charts, and I'm going to take this martial arts, I'm going to put it together. And then it sounds great. It sounds good, right? If these points can heal you, then they can hurt you. So I'm just going to go that way. That's the Jorge Dilma theory anyway. So he goes, you know, if I poke this and I touch that, then this happens. And he just makes this shit up. And it's funny because he makes it up on the fly. But after a while, he's made it up so much, he's made its own bullshit art. The art is really in the bullshit. It's in the selling of the product. So he's not a good martial artist. He's just a shitty car salesman. He's selling you a car that's got sugar in the gas tank, but it looks beautiful. You're like, hey man, you like that 1986 Camaro, do you? Yeah, it drives great. Like, it's 2018. How come this thing's still running? Oh, we kept it in great condition. You're like, what the fuck? All right, well, fuck it. It's a good deal. Then you drive that shit down the road. And you're like, damn it, it broke. What did you expect, motherfucker? It's kind of like when people like teaching you no-touch knockout stuff. You're like, all right, well, it's a little shady, but I'm buying it. And then you try to use it, and then you get beaten up. And you're like, it didn't work. No shit, it didn't work, but then you believe it because he's charismatic and selling it and makes you feel it, He's like a evangelist, I guess you'd say, somebody who's just selling you something.
So obviously Jorge Dilma is a fairly famous example of what we're talking about. I remember watching a video of him explaining why what he did didn't work to the person interviewing him, and it had to do with, I think that your toes were probably crossed, which actually cancels out my power, or your tongue was pointing to the left so the chi didn't match up just right. This, like you're saying, on the fly bullshit that was just hilarious to watch him spew, because he looked very convinced about it.
Well, see, that's the hard part. Like, is he playing an act, or does he really believe it? Who knows? You got to ask Dylan, I guess. I'd love to. But I would love. If anybody is watching this, please, for the love of God, get me in front of Jorge Dilma. Get me 30 minutes. I want a 30-minute interview. And I'm going to rip him fucking apart. I'm going to make him regret his life choices with just the words I speak. George, here's a quote for you. It's my favorite quote. I write it online all the time. You can McDojo life it if you'd like. Jorge Dilma is the skid mark on the underpants of the martial arts community.
Boom. What more needs to be said?
Mm-hmm.
So, side note, clearly, like I said, he's probably one of the more famous examples of what we're talking about. But as far as like not one-off persons or personalities, what would you say is the number one offender in martial arts as a whole? Like, talking about styles like Sistema and stuff of that ilk.
See, I don't think it's a style that's the number one offender. I think, because there's Kyosho Jitsu, which is like Dillman stuff. And then you have like Jack Hogan does like a certain type of Jitsu himself that's very similar, where he knocks people out of his mind. Jack Hogan is dead, by the way, so I'm not making fun of a dead man. I'd make fun of him if he was alive. Then there's, the system of fat guy. Everybody knows that guy online. But they're not the number one offender, in my opinion, because at least the sane person can look back at that and go, that's bullshit, right? What I don't like is the self-defense clips. Like the self-defense teachers, like who only teach like weekend self-defense courses, that is the number one offender. Those are the people, because some of that you can look at and almost justify if you didn't know what you were doing. So here's last time I talked about that. The average person, when they call a martial arts studio, what's the first question they ask?
I don't know. What's the first question they ask?
How much does it cost?
Of course. Yeah.
That's it. They don't ask who the instructor was. They don't ask what style. They don't ask how the training is, anything about the program itself. How much? It's because they know absolutely nothing about what they're looking at. Now, if you were trained, your question would be much different. Hey, what style do you teach? Who is your instructor? What's your lineage? How does your program work? Do you have open mats? Is there sparring involved? How often do you drill? Your questions would be more different if you were trained. Well, most people haven't. So it's very easy for us to forget that. Well, when we look at these naive people, they look at something like that self-defense video we were talking about before, and they treat it like the gospel because someone like Business Insider shared it. So it's got to be correct. Fuck no, it's not. It's because Business Insider doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about either. And then they have this lady who's their poster child teaching nonsense because they were simply close. It's a friend of a cousin, and they teach self-defense. And we need a self-defense instructor. Hey, I have an idea. My cousin teaches self-defense. Why don't you have her as your poster child? You know what? That's a great idea. Then boom, next thing you know, 3 million people see this video. And those are the things that boggle my mind the most. When you look at those comments, it's not, that's crazy, that's bullshit. If I posted on my page, people would say it, right?
Yeah.
But the average person looking at Business Insider going, oh man, Sally's really got to love this. She's got to go take this class. Oh, you're in New York? Go take this lady's class. So now she's famous for being not bullshit artist like she really is, but she's famous because she's an expert in martial arts. So that's what people are exposed to. It's fucking horseshit. It drives me insane. At least when I look at the System of Fat guy, I can go, he's got diabetes and that's wrong. Or at least when I look at the Kyosho guys, when he's looking at someone and knocks them out, we can all have a good chuckle because he's not fucking Darth Vader, But when you look at that, that's infuriating because those are people who are supposed to be like out there for the world to see. Those are like the people who are supposed to be at the forefront of what we do, but they're the representatives, motherfucker. Yeah. We didn't hire them. We didn't put them out there,
Yeah, it's unfortunate because there's, like you're saying, there's such an audience available to the person who's sharing it, but I don't think that they understand that the person they're sharing to that audience doesn't even close to represent what they say they do. So like how many legitimate martial artists would love to have been in that position to show 3 or 4 time and tested true moves to literally protect people's lives when they need it? How many people who know what they're doing would love to be in that position? But for whatever reason, like you're saying, friend of a friend, they pick some lady who, I don't know if she teaches kindergarten classes or what. She shouldn't be teaching self-defense classes.
Well, sadly enough, that lady actually does. That's what she does.
Wow.
Yeah, fucking blows your mind, doesn't it? And she teaches these weekend courses, right? The fact of the matter is about self-defense courses. A true self-defense course is continued education in the arts. You continue to train and get better at it every day, because if you don't use it, you lose it. If you learn a weekend course and you learn 15, because if you've ever been to a seminar, I'm sure you have, you know that they'll teach you maybe 6, 7 techniques, maybe, or concepts or ideas. Most people who go write all of that down. Oh man, I got to take notes on this shit. And if you don't, you're going to lose it all, right? Usually if I go to a seminar, my memory is shit because I've been hitting the head for a living for like 21 years. So my memory is terrible. But usually when I leave a seminar, my only goal is to take one thing, just one. All I want is one specific tool that I could use, whether it's a phrase, an idea, a thought, a technique, doesn't matter. I try to take one thing, right? Well, that's just one thing. I need more than one thing to protect my life. So when these people who have never done martial arts a day in their life take this weekend course and feel so empowered, like it's dangerous. It's a dangerous thought to say, hey, you can protect yourself now. Here's the certificate to prove it. Yeah, it's like, no, you can't. I'm so sorry. I hate that you spent that money, but you can't. You got to continue to train. You have to make yourself better over time,
Yeah. I have a feeling that a lot of those weekend courses don't actually involve any sparring or like live situation where they have to put it to use. And if it did, they would see immediately how difficult it is in practice.
Truth. That's why I love one thing that jiu-jitsu is really good at is situational sparring. So it puts you in a situation, sometimes the worst of situations, right? All right, guys, we're going to start off. This guy's on your back. He's got a good solid grip, whatever the grip may be. His hooks are in, and your job is to get to a better position. And his job is to choke the bejesus out of you. Ready, go. Because at least like, okay, well, this guy's really going to try to choke me, and I'm really going to try to escape. And if I can escape, this technique works. And if I can't, I got to work on making it better. But like a lot of striking arts, for some reason, like I'm not saying everyone, so don't fucking hit me up on my Instagram and blow my shit up, right? But a lot of the arts that do a lot of striking techniques, like Kempo is usually a good example. They'll do like 80,000 punches and kicks in one sequence, right? And the guy will just stand there. And I get that they're just practicing a lot of techniques quickly, and I can kind of understand that. But then when I go, okay, show me application, they go, oh, that was the application. Oh, I killed you. I poked you in the eye. I hit you in the throat. Yeah, man, all that's good. Well, what about the what ifs? Because that's what we do as martial artists is we deal with a lot of what ifs. A jab, for instance, a jab is coming at my face. I could slip this way. I could slip that way, right? I could parry. I could high cover, turn my head. I could teep to keep you away. I could step back, right? I can counter with my footwork. I can off angle. There's so many different what ifs, right? And I just figure out which what if works best for me at the moment in time. Well, when you go, that's it. That's how it works. I go, fucking bullshit. No, it's not. Because you have to have the what ifs to get better at what you do. Like jiu-jitsu is a rabbit hole of what ifs, right? All right, cool. I got the arm bar. So this is how you defend the arm bar. Okay, well, he defended the arm bar. Now I have to deal with the what if, right? What if his grip is like this? What if his grip is like this? What if his grip is like this? So all the what ifs. What if he's grabbing his collar instead? So all of these what ifs make you a better martial artist. When you take away the what ifs, you're taking away legitimacy. It's not real anymore. It's fantasy because they're always what ifs. you know?
Yeah, that's right. There's no silver bullet. So if that's what you're selling, then that you can almost be guaranteed it's not going to matter when it matters.
Truth, man, truth. There is no one technique that will cure the thing, you know? And then again, like I said before, every martial art I feel has something genuine to add. You know, like eye gouges are a big thing. Like Kung Fu has a lot of that. You know, Wing Chun Kung Fu has a lot of Bill G stuff, right? So that kind of stuff is cool. And you can say that that's tried, that's battle tested because it happens in the UFC all the goddamn time. And what happens as soon as that happens? All right, break, stop the fight. This guy's fucked up too bad, right? And then they restart. So that has some legitimacy, right? But how do you train it? You know, what's the stimulus? You know, so if there's no real good training technique behind what you're doing and you can't do it full on, then it's very difficult to say that it's going to work. You know, you have to be able to train something quick and full on. That's why I do enjoy like training headbutts, knees, and elbows with a partner who has a helmet on. It's one of my favorite things to do because I can go full bore and he can go full bore, right? So if we're training elbows to the head, right, and you really want to train it, I put on some elbow pads, he puts on elbow pads, we put on headgear, right? We just fucking have at it, pow, pow. And it lets you know the effectiveness, but it also lets you know the weaknesses of what you're doing. You go, that really fucking hurt my elbow. What do you think is going to happen when you crack somebody in the head with your elbow? It's not going to feel good, you know, but that gives you a real stimulus. If I go, all right, man, ready, stand there, 50,000 punches. There's no stimulus, there's no response. So how do you know it's going to work? That's just my opinion. I think there should be that back and forth.
Well, I think because there's no stimulus, you can be guaranteed that it's not going to work because it's not realistic. Nobody's going to stand there for you.
That'd be cool. I wish. There's a lot of kickboxing matches where I got the shit beat out of me. I wish they would have just stood there.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. So tell me about your own fighting experience. So give the listeners a little bit of backstory.
Okay, well, I guess I could start off with how I got into the martial arts, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure. Start right at the beginning.
As I don't know if you can see, but I have a lot of scars on my face. I was born with a cleft palate and lip. So, you know, I have scars on my face. My nose is fucked up. Well, the nose was fixed, but then I started fighting and got fucked up again. So
I bet your parents were proud.
Damn you, fighting. But then, and as a child, I was picked on and bullied my entire life. It got the worst when I got to middle school. Once I got to middle school, it kind of peaked. And then when I was 12 years old, a group of kids in the gym room were fucking with me. So one of the kids was there. He was messing with me. And I was like, yo, man, you got to stop or we're going to have to fight. And I had a loud mouth, but I had no clue what I was doing. So I was like, hey, man, you got to stop. Well, as soon as I said I was going to fight that kid, his entire crew of friends was circled me. There was like 5 or 6 of them. And I was like, oh, fuck, is it not going to go down the way I thought it was going to go down? So then they waited until the bell rang. So the bell rang, I left the classroom, and they jumped me right outside the classroom. Like, as soon as I turned my back to leave, they were waiting. They just fucked me up. And they beat me for 5 minutes. The only reason I know it was 5 minutes was because they beat me from the time the bell rang when we left class to the time the next bell rang when you're supposed to be in the next class. So I know that's what 5 minutes. And I've been in a lot of fights. 5 minutes is an eternity when you're getting the shit out of you. And then when that was happening, they stabbed me with pencils. They stepped on my head. My glasses were crushed into my eye. You know, they hit me with whatever they had. 2 teachers stood there and watched the entire thing happen. They didn't stop it at all because at the time, unfortunately, there was a rule in the school that the only person who was able to break up fights was the officer who was on campus because teachers were getting sued for breaking up fights. So the officer, unfortunately for me, was on the other side of campus breaking up another fight. So I was the lucky winner of an ass whooping. And then my best friend, who was late for the class, came up after the ass whooping had done, and he handed me a card, and he helped me to the nurse's office, and he goes, hey, man, you need this. And it was a card for karate. And up to this point, I asked my mom to do a ton of stuff. I was like, can I do basketball? No, you'll get hurt. Can I do football? No, you'll get hurt. And then finally, I bring this to her after that ass whooping, and I'm like, hey, can I do martial arts? And she was like, we'll see. And then she put me in the one thing that's guaranteed to get me punched in the face over and over again. So I did it, and I've never stopped since. And then in my career, since I started, I'm a 3rd-degree black belt in American Freestyle Karate, which is basically karate just without katas. I'm a black belt in a system called JiuJitsu. No one fucking knows what it is, so I don't usually put it on the resume. It's basically a nunchuck system. I'm good with nunchucks. It's a stupid skill, but I have it. And then I did boxing. I was a 6-0 amateur boxer. I did a lot of smoker fights back then. So my first boxing match, which I was 15 versus a guy who was 32 years old because we were the same weight. And then I was 4-2 as an amateur kickboxer. I took both of my losses back to back to the exact same technique, spinning back kick to the liver. Fucking pretty bad. So after those 2 losses, I was like, yeah, I got to take a little time off and think about what I want to do here. Because my goal at the time was I was going to go pro. And then after those 2 losses, I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't, because this is amateur level and I took some pretty bad losses. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just open up my own karate school. So I did. I opened up my own karate school. I had that for about 4 years. And then during that time, I actually got offered a position on a sport martial arts team. And we traveled the country, Canada into Mexico, to do sport martial arts and kickboxing tournaments.
Oh, cool.
And so I did. It was called Team Full Circle. Sage Northcutt was on that team as well, which is pretty cool. And then we, after about 2 years of just basically only seeing the inside of hotel rooms and training camps, I was like, that's getting kind of old. But during this time, I was also doing jiu-jitsu. So I found jiu-jitsu. I've been doing that for 8 years. And then that's pretty much what I'm currently doing now. So my goal in my martial arts career, other than calling out bullshit, is I really want 10 black belts before I die. I want 10 legitimate black belts before I die.
I've never heard that come from someone's mouth who wasn't joking. That's incredible.
Oh, I'm going to do it unless I die early.
Okay, so tell me, what other black belts do you have in your radar then? Because you got to have this planned out. You've got 3 years now?
That's actually why I picked jiu-jitsu. So I knew jiu-jitsu was going to take the longest. And my goal isn't to run to the path. My goal is to walk down the path, because I'd like to do this when I'm old. So if I just keep kicking the shit out of myself every day, I'm not going to be able to do this my entire life. So I'm pacing myself to learn as much as I can, so that way as I get older, I can teach as much as I can. Because every fighter gasses out around 35, 40 years old. And then what do? You have to be able to teach people well. So that's my ultimate goal anyway. So fuck the middleman. I already did my fighting when I was younger. It's time to start learning how to be a better instructor. So once I get my black belt in jiu-jitsu, because I try to focus on one art at a time. Why separate your thoughts? I'd really like to get a black belt in some type of a Chinese martial art, just to kind of learn it, like maybe a kung fu. Like Wing Chun is very interesting to me, because the concept of center line is there all the time, even in jiu-jitsu. Like when you reach across into somebody's collar, it's much different than reaching straight across the same side collar. You put yourself in a lot of vulnerable positions when you're reaching across. You can add chokes and stuff, but like in the guard, for instance, when I reach up and across into someone's collar, I'm begging to get armbar. So it's one of those things. That particular theory is solid, right? So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. I'd also like to, when I'm old, like old as shit and can barely move, I'd like to learn Tai Chi, because I figured I can barely move and that's real slow. So I can figure that one out when I'm old and keep me mobile. I would like to learn some type of an Israeli art. You got to figure Israel is under attack, 24 hours a day for the last couple 100 years. So they probably know what the fuck they're doing there. So maybe like a Krav Maga, something like that. But a legitimate one, because over here, of course, it's prepackaged and sold everywhere. I'd like to learn something from someone who didn't get their certificate at a seminar in a weekend, And I have a rule for myself. To me, I think that your black belt should take at least 8 to 10 years in each black belt. I think it should take you a long time of dedication to what you're doing. At least. If it takes longer, it takes longer. I wouldn't mind learning Taekwondo either. I think that there's a lot of good kicking and stuff like that. Plus, when I'm young, I can still do the cool acrobatic kicking and shit. And I think that looks cool, man. That just looks fucking cool. I'm gonna look cool, So that's kind of the path at the moment. So we'll see which one I could pick up next. I don't know.
So you've been doing jiu-jitsu for 8 years. Would that make you up in your purple belt?
Yes, sir. I am a purple belt. Very good. You know your jiu-jitsu, sir. How did I know that?
Been around.
Yeah.
Who is? Yeah.
And I'm a very mediocre purple belt. I am not the greatest. I am mediocre. I think people misinterpret sometimes that because I'm calling other people out, that I'm basically saying that I'm better than them. That's not the case. Some of these people might be able to kick my ass in real life. I don't fucking know. But I know bullshit when I see it. I don't have to be a chef to know something tastes like shit. Oh, that tastes terrible because I'm a chef. No, it tastes terrible because it tastes terrible. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a good example. I like that. So what affiliation, what lineage are you under right now?
I'm with Gracie Baja at the moment. So okay. I'm under That's Master Carlos Gracie Jr., who's under Master Carlos Gracie Sr. Right now, I'm pretty sure Flavio Almeida is the number 2 in our company. And then I'm under Professor Roberto Patero. And the reason I actually started jiu-jitsu, well, I wanted to do it anyway, but the reason I picked this particular school, I used to teach martial arts on site at schools, and I went to a school to go teach one of my karate classes at school, which is very lucrative, by the way. If you're ever looking to make money, I'm telling you, it's where it's at. I went, and as I was leaving, he was coming in to pick up his kids. Well, I had karate gi pants on, a karate shirt, and he had a rash guard on and jiu-jitsu pants. And we passed each other, and it was just like, hey. So we like chit-chatted for a second, and I found out he taught jiu-jitsu, and he had just opened up a school. So I was like, dude, I got to go. So he gave me his card. A couple weeks passed, and I saw the card in my drawer in my office. I was like, I gotta go. All right, so I set up my class. I went in there, and I rolled with a couple people, and I tapped a few people out at the beginning, which kind of like, because I had done some grappling.
Right.
Karate people call jiu-jitsu when they aren't certified. But I had done some grappling, and then so I knew a few submissions. I knew nothing about positions. I knew nothing about how to transition. I just knew how to do a rear naked choke. I knew how to do a Kimura, an armbar, and Americana. That was it. That's all I had in my arsenal. But God damn it, I was going to use it. So like we're rolling and sparring at the end of class, and I had tapped out a few white belts. I tapped out a blue belt, and I was like, oh, might not be the place for me. Like there's no reason I should be winning as well. And then I got to another blue belt, and he fucking ruined me. I was like, oh my God, like this is what I'm talking about. So like I'm all busted up and shit. I'm loving it. I was like, this is what I wanted. I was like, and then I rolled with a purple belt, and he just wrecked me even worse. And then I was like, all right, so this is the coup de grace. The instructor is going to roll with me. I was like, the moment. So then I got in there, and he rolled with me, and he looked bored. He looked so bored. Like I knew absolutely nothing. And I was like, at this point, I had done martial arts for a long time. What I thought, but I knew nothing about the ground. So he was tapping me out with my arm, my gi, his leg, my leg. I was like, fuck. I'm sold, dude. Where do I sign? And I've been with him ever since. Like, phenomenal instructor, great guy, good mentor, good person.
That's awesome. I teach as well. I got my own school now, and I always wonder, like, how should we treat the new people to give them a sense of jiu-jitsu without breaking their soul? Because there's a fine line there. And we had a guy this last class who, a friend of a friend, nice kid, who comes in, and I've got a messed up ankle right now, so I can't roll with him, unfortunately. But one of my better white belts, he takes him the first round of sparring. I made sure that he was comfortable. Like we're all safe here. We're gonna take it easy and help you out in sparring. You know, just want to give you a sense of how this works. And so he goes one round with him, very easy, lets him sort of move around, feel stuff. And then after a few rounds of everyone going real easy on it, I never told my white belt to do this, but he decided, I'm going to give this guy the Tour de Jiu-Jitsu. And he started from the bottom of his body and worked his way up and tapped him in so many different ways. I started thinking, like, should I tell him off right now? I'm kind of he doesn't look like, this new guy doesn't look scared, but I'm kind of worried for him because he just got tapped to like a crucifix armbar rear naked choke wrist lock, you know?
And see, I think that's a fine line for instructors though. You know, it's like, how far do you go to prove your art? You know, because we're passionate about what we do. We love what we do. That's why we do what we do. And then the new guy comes in, and you're looking at the new guy, and it's really hard to look at him and go, it's not fresh meat. I want him to learn, you know?
Yeah.
I do enjoy that feeling too. There's nothing like it, man. There's nothing like really being a white belt in something, you know, like that wanting to learn is an incredible feeling. Like when you walk into a place for the first time and there's new rules and there's new standards and there's new things you're working on and you know nothing about it. That feeling is incredible. I wish I could keep that feeling every day. You know, it's like you walk into your studio and it's very hard not to go, well, I know what we're doing today, right? But if let's say you walk into another martial arts studio though, even if it's jiu-jitsu and you walk into a completely different school, you feel like a white belt immediately because you don't know how they do things. You know, you're like, oh, this is great. This is a good feeling. You get a little nervous, which I like. I like that little nerve. You get a little excited because you're like, oh, what will we learn today? You feel like a fucking kid. Like, I think it's the fountain of youth. Like just being hungry to learn something new every day is a beautiful thing. And I think that's why people take advantage, who get taken advantage of, you know, when it comes to the martial arts, because they walk into the studio, all of that excitement builds up, and then somebody teaches them something and it feels bigger than life. And then they learn it and they're like, oh, I'm so empowered right now. And then I look at that on the outside and I go, you're a fucking piece of shit. And I just want to shut them down. I just got it. Like that. They don't deserve a spot at the table, man. They don't.
So for people who think that they might know somebody who's one of these shysters who isn't on the level, like you see every now and again in the jiu-jitsu community, some guy will go out and try to call some guy out mid-class. You know, they walk into this dojo and they think it's garbage and they're going to call him out. What do people got to have to be concerned about? Both, you know, just whether it be morally, but also especially legally, since you're talking about, you know, video rights and such. So you've clearly looked into this.
Yeah, definitely. So like I've discussed it with a couple people. Like there's a lot of legalities in what you do. So I'm actually really amazed that some of these places haven't gotten sued yet. So you got to figure this person that you're calling out is shiesty enough to lie to their students to their face on a daily basis. So what's stopping them from turning around and hitting you with a defamation lawsuit because you decided that you wanted to shut them down? And that's the difficult part about what we're doing or what we're trying to get done, is you have to get them to agree to be able to film them in certain states. Some states it's cool, right? And you call them out in public. Like there's a great guy. He does this thing called sorry, it's escaping me at the moment. Stolen valor. So
Okay.
he goes and he calls people out on stolen valor. But when he does it in public. So it's legal for him to film. Well, when you go to somebody's place of business and you start filming, there might be some legalities there. So you have to be really careful about just going and filming, beating someone up. Because really what you're doing is you're building a case against yourself. You walk into the school, you beat the shit out of somebody unnecessarily and you filmed it. Are you a fucking idiot? You're basically just building a case for them to sue you. You know, like there's a difference between training and just beating someone up. You know, that's not cool. And it doesn't prove your point. Proving your point should be going in there and just simply talking to them and going, yo, you've done something wrong. Can you explain yourself? And if they can't, that's all you need. The most damning evidence is when someone is not willing to speak to you. That is the most damning evidence. When somebody says, no comment.
Yeah.
What? No comment? What the fuck are you hiding then? You know? So really, you don't need to do all of that. What you really need to do is you just need to figure out a way to communicate with these people. That's it. And once you do that, you shut them down. Because all it takes is one Google search, and I type in martial arts, right? And my ultimate goal for any of this is that when somebody searches someone's martial arts studio, the first thing that pops up is the shiesty shit that they did, not their studio. So I go looking for Steve's Martial Arts and fucking Judo Emporium. And I type that shit in, right? And then boom, the first thing that pops up is the fact that he molested 5 children, but for some reason didn't get put on a list. That's a win to me, you know? Or, and like I said, people make mistakes. There are certain mistakes that you can forgive and there are certain ones that you can't. But molesting kids ain't one. And that's one thing that kills me is there's a guy right now who owns 3 different studios who molested 2 different children and he still teaches children's classes. How the fuck does that happen? You know, and this is a guy who not only is under somebody who's very high ranked, but at the time was really high ranked. And I'm not going to call them out because since then they have denounced that particular person and stuff like that. But I send him an email once a week. Once a week I send him an email. I have yet to get a response. I've been sending them emails for 6 months, once a week, no response, because they know that they're pieces of shit for what they're doing. Because all he would have to do is go, hey, you know, this thing happened, and then all of a sudden, but he molested 2 kids, and he was not put on some type of a sex offender registry. Somehow the judge did not allow that to happen.
So he got convicted, but he wasn't, there was no lasting. Wow.
He was. I don't know how. Nobody fucking knows. 1, the system's fucked for that kind of thing. But 2, like the martial arts, for a lot of people who don't understand the martial arts, is kind of the last refuge for people who have a very hard time finding jobs.
Yeah.
Like it's people don't understand that, but like the martial arts is all about basically just kind of having the ability to beat someone up to a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. So like when you walk into a studio for the very first time and you see somebody and they manhandle you, and there's one or two thoughts. One, fuck you, I'm going to go to somewhere else where they don't beat me up. Or two, you're going to go, man, I really wish I could do that. And it's empowering in a way to go, man, he beat me up, but I'm learning from him, so I will one day learn that. That's a very old school mentality. Look at all the old Chinese, Japanese martial arts. The instructor, the master, was an asshole to his students. So when you look at all these old kung fu movies, right, think about what the master is portrayed as. Is he portrayed as the nicest person in the world? Or is he portrayed as a humongous dick who is trying to teach you something by being an asshole? Look at the Karate Kid, best example, right? Miyagi could have been a cool guy and been like, yo, the reason I'm making you do this 1,000 times and wax my fucking floor and clean my car is because I'm actually teaching you martial arts. Just have faith in the system. He could have said that, but he was an asshole and he made him fucking paint the fence without saying shit. And then when he got pissed off, then he showed him. It's like, why did you wait till he was pissed? You're a dick, right? Yeah. Bitch, I've been taking out your trash for 15 months. Where was the lesson there? You know, like, hey, what was up with the hand jobs, man? Is that supposed to be teaching me something too? It was weird.
Wrist movement.
You know, but like when it comes to Pai Mei, you know, in Kill Bill, like Pai Mei was a figure before then, right? Big dick, bigger the king of the hill, right? Hitting you on his head with a stick to teach you something. So people who don't know martial arts, this is their exposure to the master. So when they see somebody who's a dick, it almost feels authentic. You know, it's like, oh, well, that guy he's kind of a dick, and that guy in the movie was a dick. So I can kind of see how this works. That must be how they all work. No, like your instructor, if he's a dick, just go to another teacher, man. Like go to somebody who makes you comfortable.
That's interesting. I never thought of that. That makes sense when you put it that way. Yeah, because you think about these people that are like, how do they still have students? Like, I guess like there is more authority in place there or at play than reality.
Well, you have to take yourself back to being somebody who doesn't know martial arts. Like it's very hard. It's a hard process. It really is. It's really difficult. It's kind of like saying, all right, throw a jab wrong. Yeah. When you've been throwing a jab correctly for years, it's like, well, it's hard for me to fuck this up because I know how to do it right. But when you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture of people who don't know what they're doing, there are more people who don't train martial arts than do. And eventually, a lot of those, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of those people will eventually dabble in figuring out some type of martial art. Now, some of those people are going to go to Uncle Steve, who's like, I'll teach you how to box. I've been boxing for years. And then some of those people are going to go to the fucking McDojo down the road. Some of those people are going to go to what they're looking for. And they always find what they're looking for. They always do, because that's why they stay. You don't stay in a martial art for the martial art. You do not do that. You find the martial art for the martial art. You stay because of the people and the atmosphere and the environment and how you feel. So, for instance, if I'm looking for Taekwondo, this is just an example because we have a shitty Taekwondo school here in town. So you're looking for Taekwondo and you're going, man, I really want to learn that art. And they have it pre-packaged and shined up on a billboard. You go, oh man, okay, well I'll just go there. Well, because it's right there. It's why would I look anywhere else? I can see it, right? So I go there and they put on a show and dance, right? I do a free trial class. But in my trial class, it's like, they just have me in there. I don't actually get to see the class because it's just a one-on-one fighting lesson because it's special, right? Then they teach me whatever it is that I'm really looking for because they're pandering to me. Then when we sit down, we go to an office and they bring out this very expensive looking roster of how their payment systems go and all that. And then they sell you on the program. Now their script for selling you on this program is like this fucking thick. So they already know what you're going to say because they've already done this to thousands of people. So then they sell you on the program. And then after about a week of you actually doing the program, after they've sold you on all this equipment you don't necessarily need, then you go, oh man, I'm not actually learning any real martial art here. You're very charismatic and that's cool, but this is bullshit. So then you quit. So then they hit you up and they let you know like, yo, you still owe us a lot of money. We're not letting you out of this contract. And if you don't, we're going to take you to collections, which is another shiesty trip. And then you go, dude, I signed up on a 2-year contract. This is fucking ridiculous. I did this for a week. They go, well, you signed the contract. So then all of a sudden your martial arts experience as a human being is wrecked. You will never go to another studio because you think this is how they all go. So it's like a lemonade stand. There's my lemonade stand, and then there's 5 or 6 down the road. Now you could luckily find my lemonade stand at the front, right? And that might be your first experience. Then what you're going to do is go to the next lemonade stand and go, you know what? I'm going to try something different. You go, the first one tasted better. So you go back and you stick with that lemonade stand, and that's the only one you do. Or you can be the unlucky fucker who goes all the way to the other end and starts with the shitty lemonade stands. You go to the first one, man, this is shit. You go to the second one, you go, man, this is even more shit. You're going to go back to the first one because it's less shit. It's not great, but you know, hey, I already did this one. I kind of get it a little bit. I'll go back. And that's the unfortunate part about students is studios, like you just opened a studio, you're competing with the bullshit. And they're selling people, and they're selling a lot of it. And they'll never find you because they're going to leave a sour taste in their mouth.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunate. I feel like, quite honestly, like when I started doing martial arts, it was with karate. Then I moved on about 3 years into Kali, which is Filipino stick fighting.
Yeah, Kali, yeah. Like a Prima, a Kali.
Yeah, Kali. Illustrissimo Kali was where it was. Or what it was. And then a couple years into that, I was wrestling around with a friend who, in our group of friends, was known as the JiuJitsu guy because he knew, like you were saying, he knows a few submissions, and he had a Vale Tudo VHS from back in the day, and he watched all the UFCs, and he could beat everyone on the trampoline. So he was the JiuJitsu guy. And then we were screwing around one night at a party. With these Kali sticks, these padded ones, because I kind of knew what I was doing a little better than he did, and he was getting pissed at me, and then took me down to the ground, and I managed to catch him in like an Americana, which was one of the very few locks that Kali taught because of like disarms, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, like up to that point in my martial arts career, which was 5 years in at that point, 3 years of karate and 2 years of Kali, it was the first time I actually had an opponent admit that he lost. Think about that. All of the sparring hours, all of the training hours, all of the dedication was all subjective until that point. So I felt like I had finally found a real martial art with jiu-jitsu for that reason alone. Not because the other stuff was ineffective, but because this was proven effective the moment it was effective.
Yeah. Well, when it comes, like we talked about, I think there is a separation of martial and art. But when it comes to that, it's important to know that what you're learning could possibly be effective.
That's right.
Without that, why am I learning martial arts? Why not just arts?
Yeah. Yeah, so for that reason, I think that even if there are shysters down the road that are selling people, and if there's any way that they come across Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and give it a try, it's going to put that better lemonade in their mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's the unfortunate part. Like we just talked about earlier about the first question that people ask is how much is it? Because they don't know any other questions. Another unfortunate fact is that the average martial arts student drops out after a year. I'm sure you've heard of the blue belt blues and shit like that. It usually takes about a year and a half to get your blue belt. You get your blue belt, and then you're gone, right? The problem is that that's with every art. So even if these people get to you, right, the odds are they're going to drop before they even get past their blue belt. So our job as martial artists is to provide them with something they're going to carry with them even after they leave. One little thing, one little nugget that they'll carry with them wherever they go for the rest of their life. I think that's our real obligation as martial arts instructors is to know the facts. They're going to drop. No matter how good you are, no matter how awesome your class is, eventually that life happens, right? So, but what scares me the most about those other shysters isn't so much about the people getting hurt. What scares me the most is that they'll spend their entire life with that one nugget of information that bullshit artist told them that will be gospel for them for the rest of their life. And then, of course, they'll in turn give that to someone else and give it to somebody else. So here's a couple examples of that. One, you need to register your hands as weapons.
I love that one.
Right? But some people still believe that. Martial artists know that's a crock of shit. That's not real. That's from some fucking magazine that the Black Dragon Society years ago were selling in fucking comic book papers, right? But we know it's bullshit, but the average person doesn't. Doesn't that blow your mind that there's such a huge piece of bullshit that's in culture? That's in culture. Yeah. I'm telling you, hypothetically, if you walked up to 15 different people, how many people do you think would actually believe you have to register your hands?
Probably 10.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Doesn't that blow your fucking mind?
Yeah.
Right? But that's a lie that was perpetuated because it started with bullshit. And then people get on to me going, yo, you should just leave them be. No, fuck that. I'm not going to just leave them be. They're fucking up our shit. What they're saying is messing up the whole thing for all of us. They're taking away the legitimacy of everything we do, because martial arts is like saying military, and we're all under those branches. Whether you're Army, Navy, Marines, you're in the military, right? Well, then when you say martial arts, you got the kung fu guys, the jiu-jitsu guys, and then you got the shysters. Well, they're still lumped in with us whether we like it or not. So the best thing to do is, rather than ignore them, cut them out of the equation. That's just my opinion. Cut them out, because then you don't have to deal with that shit. When they're scared enough to go, should I open up the studio? I don't know. I'm probably going to get called out if I do. That will be the victory. That's the victory. Is when one of these motherfuckers just decides, hey, man, there's too many people getting called out for being bullshit artists. I can't do this. I think I'm going to be a mechanic. I think I'm going to cut hair. Then we went.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you have a good overview of martial arts in the different varieties. I keep my head buried in the BJJ sand, more or less. But I feel like within the BJJ community, there's a little less bullshit available. For example, I have black belt friends who have earned their black belts who are terrified to put out a single technique video online because they're worried it's going to get ripped apart. You know what I mean? Like there's a community, there's a sense within the community that doesn't stand for bullshit, even at the minute level, it seems.
Yeah, well, I think that's a beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu that I wish other arts would take up. So I think with jiu-jitsu has always had an evolution mentality about getting better. So you have like, what is it, Count Koma Maeda brings it over to Master Carlos Gracie Sr. You know, Master Carlos Gracie Sr. and Helio and all of them, they grow the art, right? And you have the Machados and you have all of them, but there was an evolution there. They're trying to make it better. So then you have the Gracie challenges, pretty much forever. That's what they did. But then they start filming it, you know, and they start documenting this, and they do it like a real documentation of an art, like really like a scroll would be back in the day. They're keeping note of every little thing they're doing to make their art better, like fucking scientists. And then as they start developing their art, then they go, you know what, we got to step this up. How do we make it better? And then after they make it better, they figure another way to make it better. So after the Gracie challenges, they go, you know what? We have something here. This is really good. They go, let's prove it. You know, let's get hoist. Let's put it out there and let's do an open challenge. And what a lot of people don't know about the original UFC is a lot of those guys who did those fights originally, they were the best at what they did at the time. They were really good. Like if you look up the original fighters of the UFC, they actually were good at their art.
Yeah.
You know, but then of course, that was kind of the point, is like they really wanted to display how much better jiu-jitsu was against these proven guys. There's actually a guy who was a kung fu master who had done the Gracie challenges twice before and lost. And they invited him back to the UFC, and he competed in the UFC as well and lost there, right? So the thing about the Gracie challenges was that was the warm-up. And then the preamble was the actual like UFC. So then they do the UFC, and then that even more proves it, puts it on the map. But then it's not stopped evolving. You know, like recently, John Donahue has made leg locks like on the map. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, why would you ignore 50% of the body? All that shit, because the community is constantly hungry for more knowledge. So they're constantly having to grow, as even in sport jiu-jitsu, just grow. Then you have guys like Eddie Bravo who are like, you know what? Let's focus more on no gi. We've done gi for so long, why not no gi? And then he develops an entire system that they're using at the highest levels of combat. It's working. You know, fucking the rubber guard, you can see the rubber guard pop up in UFC every couple fights. You know, so like when you're looking at this, you can see an evolution. But then you look back and you go, well, where the fuck is the rest of the arts? Where are you at, karate? You know, where are you at, taekwondo? Why aren't you evolving? Luckily, because jiu-jitsu has evolved, it's forced the other arts to evolve. Look at guys like Raymond Daniels. Raymond Daniels is taking something like taekwondo and evolving it to another level, an application level for taekwondo. He's jump spinning 720, kicking dudes in the fucking head. How crazy is that shit? Look at the footwork of martial arts and how it's developed in MMA. It's karate, it's taekwondo footwork. But why is that the case? It's because higher level guys realize that in and out motion of me being able to hit you and you not hit me back is kind of important. So they realize that there's an evolution there. So luckily, because jiu-jitsu was the catalyst, all the other martial arts have been forced to evolve or die. That's the truth. They have to evolve or no one will want to learn them anymore. that's the beauty of it. So because jiu-jitsu was like, yo, we're going to keep fucking doing this, and they steamrolled past everybody, like everybody else is stuck by the wayside going, we can either evolve or no one will learn our art anymore. And that's it. Like there'll be arts in our lifetime that people will no longer train. Think about it. How fucking cool is it to live in a time where you're a part of fucking martial arts history? Right now, it's either evolve or fucking die. That's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't that way for thousands of years back in feudal Japan and ancient China, right? Like you took what the master said as the irrefutable truth, and you only taught that if you got given the scroll to teach it as the head student. And there was no science behind it. There was no survival of the fittest. There was no, only the strong survive. It was, this is it. Don't question it.
A lot of people forget that our wild, wild wests was happening when samurais were. Like people forget that those two things were happening similar times because we were too busy trying not to die of dysentery, and they were over there fucking killing people with samurai swords, right? So we had our own shit going on, and there was a lot of separation. But when you look at a guy like Miyamoto Musashi, right? He was a person who was constantly trying to evolve his art because if he didn't, he was going to die, like constantly, right? It was very similar to like Afro Samurai.
I watched it, yeah.
The number one headband shit, which is a genius idea, by the way. But if you look at that, that's very similar to how Miyamoto Musashi just lived his life. He was traveling from city to city, town to town, and he was trying to challenge the best sword fighters that were in the town. And he would have these open challenges. And he probably looked like shit. He probably smelled worse. He was the epitome of what a Ronin really was. He was really a masterless samurai, and he would just travel challenging people. But he was evolving his art because of necessity. And that's really how the art's evolved. It's like, I would hope that the evolution that we're going through right now will weed out the bullshit. You would hope that it would have already happened in 93, but it didn't. There are still these people all over the world looking for the easy pill. There is no easy pill to this shit. You have to work hard. That's it.
Yeah, there was a point in this conversation I was going to ask you, like how we are in 2018 still having to deal with so much bullshit in martial arts when it should have been figured out by 95, with the way the UFC was coming in. But I think a lot of the answers and sort of insights you've been giving into the psychology of the untrained person makes a lot of sense now. Like it's not because the right information isn't out there or accessible, it's just because the way they get into the martial arts is not necessarily the best way to figure out the truth.
Yeah, have you ever seen like the UFC have to defend itself like on a monthly basis? Have you ever watched any of those things?
How do you mean?
Well, so they have to go in front of like a board, like a committee, and I'm not sure who it is. It might be the Senate or whatnot, but basically they have to be approved to continue to exist.
Really?
And they have to defend this constantly. So they get questioned all the time about all kinds of shit. And they have a representative who's the representative for it. But for one thing that pops up a lot is their their fight ranking system, right? Like the number system, right? Which everybody knows is a complete fucking joke.
Yeah.
Right? Because all right, Brock Lesnar, you weigh 300 pounds and eat steroids. You should fight Mark Hunt. And you're looking at that going, that guy's on the juice, right? And Mark Hunt's looking at the guy going, he's on the juice, right? And then after the fight, they go, hey, he was on the juice. Whoops. Like, you knew that. Like, he's fucking eating steroids like Skittles, looking like he's lifting Volvos, and you're letting this fight happen. And he had like 2 or 3 fights before he was allowed a title shot.
Yeah.
You look at people, like they have poster children and stuff like that, guys that they're trying to push up because they're going to sell more tickets and stuff like that. And I do understand that it's a business, and I wish that the fighters would understand also, you have to market yourself. Winning fights is not going to get you the paycheck.
Yeah.
Selling tickets is what's going to get you paycheck. So you can't complain if you're not selling tickets, just in my opinion. If you really want the payday, be entertaining. Sorry, that's the business you're in. It sucks. You're a great fighter. Look at Mighty Mouse. I feel so bad for that dude. Mighty Mouse is an incredible fucking athlete who does not get. Look at Stipe.
That's right.
Oh my God. The Ngannou fight that happened, right? And like UFC, it looked like they were blatantly trying to like throw Stipe under the fucking bus.
For sure they were.
Ngannou to be their poster boy, right? But the thing is like the UFC has to constantly defend itself about this kind of shit, right? So they have to go in for, I don't know if it's the state athletic commission or not, but they get ripped apart all the time. And they basically have really good lawyers. They have really good spokesmen. So they stop that shit in its tracks. But, when it comes to the UFC being the only thing to represent the martial arts right now, it's kind of the forerunner for the martial arts, really. I think it loses a little bit of its flavoring because it's a sport, and that's great. But you have to remember that it's called mixed martial arts. Where's the mixed part, motherfucker? The mixed part is there's more than one. You know what I'm saying? It's like how I learned how MMA works is very simple. It's whatever art you learn and jiu-jitsu.
That's true.
That's Taekwondo and jiu-jitsu. Boxing and jiu-jitsu. Look at Michael Venom Page. Taekwondo and jiu-jitsu. So when people make fun of other arts and you don't give it a little legitimacy, you kind of take away from your own art. You really do, because at the end of the day, you're all martial arts. You're in that fucking group. So it's funny to make fun of people who do silly shit, and obviously I like that a lot. But at the end of the day, like, I have nothing but respect for everyone. I make fun of jiu-jitsu all the time. I make fun of karate all the time. You know, I'm in both of those things.
Yeah.
So I really wish that people would hop on that train and just be like, yo, it's funny, you know, but we should still probably evolve our art. You know, let's work to make it better. Then I would have a post.
you listen to MMA apologists or MMA critics these days. They say that jiu-jitsu nowadays, because MMA as its own style, you know, as it's coming up and people are learning and getting better every generation, jiu-jitsu is becoming less and less effective, is what they keep saying. You keep hearing this? I hear this a lot. And
I've heard jiu-jitsu is not effective. You know, but I think people aren't paying attention. Like, we talked about the evolution of the arts. There's an evolution in the UFC. You got to figure it's still in its birthing stage. It's still not that old. I mean, 93 was what? How many years ago?
25?
Yeah. I mean, it's still in its birthing stage. People are still figuring out the evolution. But the thing is, it's just like in almost every sport, unlike every sport, the evolution is what's going to change over and over and over again. So that, first of all, when it first started, jiu-jitsu was right. It was something that everybody realized they had to learn. So all the way up to UFC 4, I think, it was jiu-jitsu was on the map, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden they realized, well, I wrestled. I was a strong wrestler. Like, I could. And then you get guys like, let's see, who's big, like a Dan Severn. You get guys like that who are just monsters, and you go, man, I gotta lift weights. So then you go, okay, I'm gonna be big and strong, because it was open weight class. So you gotta figure, okay, well, now I'm gonna have to start doing that. And then because you gotta look at Ken Shamrock and guys like that, man, just big monsters of men. And then you go, okay, I gotta do that. That's how our Pat Smith back in the day. These guys were fucking huge guys. So then all of a sudden, the evolution becomes, okay, it's not so much jiu-jitsu. I got to learn that too, but I also should probably lift weights. And then all of a sudden it becomes, okay, well, it's not going to be that. I got to learn Muay Thai. I got to learn how to be an effective striker if I'm going to do this, right? Because if I can be an effective enough striker, I could stop you from coming to the ground. Like, look at
Chuck Liddell.
Big Country. Big Country is probably the best example of that. Roy Nelson was like, yo, if I just hit them and they fall over, why do I need to use this? Fuck that. This is easier, you know?
Yeah, that's like Happy Gilmore. Hey, maybe I should get in the hole the first shot every time. Good game plan.
Yeah, this is great. I'm just going to do this every time. But then you have the evolution of wrestling. Like, a lot of the Team Alpha males, the Nova Uniao guys, like, strong wrestling game, right? And then that became an evolution in the art. And then now you're starting to see a big wave of karate that kind of hit with the footwork. Look at Sugar Shane right now, the skinny Irish kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, fucking look at that kid. Like, great footwork, good Taekwondo footwork, hopping around, right? Look at Conor McGregor. Look at Stephen Thompson. Look at Michael Page. Look at GSP. All with these traditional backgrounds who are using that footwork, and people are going, man, it's really hard to hit you. Why? Bitch, I just take a wider stance and I'm moving out of the way. Like, it wasn't genius thought, right? But when you try to apply it versus a Muay Thai guy, it just everything changes. Because everybody goes, Muay Thai is like the striking art. But then you look at Barbosa, right? And you look at who did Barbosa just fight recently and got shit beat out of him? Khabib? Barbosa Khabib? Was that it?
No, there's one since then. I can't remember. Yeah.
But I think, that was the fight I was talking about.
Okay.
That was because, like, basically, Barbosa is a phenomenal striker, probably one of the better strikers in MMA, and he'll take the center of the ring and own it. that's his space. And once you get into his space, he fucks you up. Like, just a phenomenal striker. Good counter fighter. I love watching his style, right? But then you got somebody like Khabib comes in, takes his ass down. It's like, no more footwork.
Yeah.
Like, well, fuck. Your legs are too close together. But that's like the difference between the styles, right? So you might be able to shoot an easier single leg takedown on a karate guy because he's giving you the leg, right? But it'd be easier for me to get the double on somebody with their feet a little closer together on the ball of their toes. So you have to like understand like the nuances in the art to understand that there's an evolution that's going on. And whenever karate becomes a really big thing, wrestling will go back to being a big thing. And then after wrestling becomes a big thing, then jiu-jitsu will be big again. And it will just keep changing hands.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say about people who are critiquing MMA or jiu-jitsu in MMA, how it's becoming less effective and jiu-jitsu doesn't work anymore, I think that's because, like you were saying, it's already rooted in everybody's style. Everybody knows jiu-jitsu. So it's not because jiu-jitsu stopped working, it's because jiu-jitsu is nullifying jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's getting submitted anymore. Well, that's because they're hard to submit now. It takes...
Jiu-jitsu too. This is bullshit.
Yeah. People think jiu-jitsu is just the armbar and the choke, but it's all a whole lot of stuff before then too, right?
Yeah, man. And people are pulling off some crazy high-level shit right now too.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, like some beautiful stuff. Like go-go paladas are getting pulled off. Like I think there was an omoplata like a couple weeks ago that I saw at a fucking local, an amateur fight. Like in pros, I think there's only a handful of omoplatas that have been pulled off in MMA. It's just an amazing thing.
There was a video going around a little while ago of a guy who Imanari rolled into a heel hook in an MMA fight.
Beautiful. I watched a season of The Ultimate Fighter where everybody was trying to Imanari roll. It was like, I was like, and go Imanari roll. I was like, what the fuck? Like, is that the whole training camp? Is that what all y'all been practicing?
That's funny.
Fuck jabs, Imanari rolls all day.
Well, we got a few people chatting in the chat section here, and I was going to leave it till the end around the podcast to answer them, but we'll give you a couple more minutes if there's anyone still in there to throw a question up if you got one for Rob of McDojo Life or for myself or for anything we were talking about, and we'll get to that in just a couple minutes here.
Yeah, definitely.
So what else do you got going on this week, Rob? You seem like a busy guy.
Man, this week coming up, I got to go to work tomorrow. I got some shit at work that I got to take care of. But after that, next week I'm going to Orlando, so that'll be the first stop on the tour. Then a week after that, I'll be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'll be doing some stuff with Master Ken there, but I'll also be trying to at least film one episode of me calling out a studio. And then after that, I'm going to Nashville. That's for a bachelor party, but while I'm there, I'll also call out a studio. So wherever I get the chance, I'm going to try to call out studios. I'm 100% self-funded at this point. I literally have one person who donates to my Patreon. So
God bless them.
Helps. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to make this happen, whether it's self-funded or not, because it's something I believe in, and whether or not I have backing or not, I'm going to do it. I almost feel at this point, it's a calling. I love the martial arts. I've been always trying to find a way to make my impact in the arts because I feel like it's given so much to me that I got to give something back. It's almost like a disappointed parent, and I don't want to die knowing that the martial arts got nothing from me but gave me everything, Have you ever looked at the pictures of masters that hang on the wall? Do you have masters that hang on your wall?
I know the pictures you're talking about, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So usually bow to the masters before and after class, starting a class or whatever. Most places do it something like that. But they always look so stern. Mm-hmm. Like there's no Steve-O pose, right? They're always just angry, fucking looking at you in disappointment. And it always fucking drives me crazy because it always makes me want to work harder. So I figured if I ever die and I'm ever on someone's wall, the only photo that you're going to get of me is something fucking ridiculous. Because I don't want to be I want to be the guy that's like, good job. If I ever have a master's photo, that's going to be the one. That's how I want to be remembered.
Well, man, if I want to see these videos that you're going to be taping of you calling out these places and even the taping with Master Ken, is there somewhere where you drop them all? Is this a YouTube channel or is it on your Facebook or what?
So right now, everything's on YouTube. But I try to do a lot on Instagram. I really try to use each platform the way it should be intended. So Instagram is really good about being interactive with your audience, which I do all the time. So I'll post one thing I did, which was really interesting, that was an accident, is on Instagram, I posted a picture of how I felt. It didn't have any words or anything like that, but one day I just randomly posted a picture, and it was a picture of, what was it? That movie, Watchmen. Remember Watchmen?
Oh, yeah.
It was a picture of the comic, and it was like the blue dude, I don't remember his name, Mr. Manhattan or Dr. Manhattan. And he's sitting on the moon, just staring off into space.
Yeah, I know the one.
That's what I felt that day. And I posted that. And then my inbox blew up with people who took it and captioned it. So I couldn't help but take it and post them because people did that for me. So I was like, all right, fuck it. So I posted them. And then now it's just a thing that I do on my page, you know? So I think that each platform is different. Like Facebook is interesting because it's a lot of people fucking hating on me.
Yeah.
Like Facebook, a lot of haters. Like Instagram is nothing but love. I get nothing but love on Instagram. On Facebook, people fucking try to rip into me all the time. It's the weirdest thing, you know? But that's why I like Instagram. If you're on Facebook and you fuck with me, suck a dick. But when it comes to like Instagram, I like the interaction. They have that new thing that just hit up called the what is it, the Instagram TV?
Yeah, IGTV.
So I'll probably be posting it on Instagram TV.
Nice.
And I'll on my YouTube.
Cool. At this point, it seems like you can get up to 10-minute video on there, but I've heard rumor that you can get up to an hour somehow. So hopefully if that becomes a thing, you know, it'd be good for vloggers and people like yourself that are doing these like expose videos. I think that would be a great way to place them. Yeah,
definitely. I really hope that I get a lot of hate. Like I told you I was going to bring this up, but today I posted a video of, again, something that I think is complete nonsense, right? A system called Kuksul, I think it was, or something like that, Kuksul Kwan, or whatever it was. But a pro MMA fighter who is actually fantastic. He's got like these crazy fast knockouts, right? He was actually a student of the guy I posted at one time in his life.
Okay.
He was really upset. And he was like, yo, man, like, I don't think this guy should be portrayed this way. He was a great guy. One thing I want to set clear is I don't fucking know these people, nor do I give a shit. I do not care whether they're alive, whether they're dead. What they're posting at that moment in time is what I care about. That bullshit that they posted. You can be the best martial artist in the world and have a moment where you're full of shit. It happens. You have that one moment that looks funny on video. That doesn't work. Something like that, right? Everybody could be possible of doing that. So it's not a personal attack. I'm not attacking you. If this is your instructor, I'm sorry that it hurt your feelings. What I am not sorry for is posting the video, and I will not take it down because it's fucking horseshit. I will never do that. So don't ask me to take the video down because I won't, because what I'm looking at is bullshit, and I think really hard before I post something. I never post something without thinking about it a lot. So if I post the video, I had a reason for doing it, and if you want me to take it down, no. The answer is no. How do you say that in Spanish? Oh yeah, no. That's how it goes. I'm not going to take it down. But he did apologize because I explained to him, like, look, I'm not making fun of you. I'm not making fun of the guy. I'm making fun of this technique because that's what I care about. I care about what he's teaching the people, you know?
Well, how about a question that is in the comments here? And I was trying to read it intermittently while I was paying attention to you, and it didn't make any sense. So I'm going to try to read it again, and it probably still won't make sense. But I'm going to hand this one to you because it says, McDojo Life, if all of the card sharks are on land, does that make the vegans' odds for poker underwater better?
Oh, that's a very good question. So if I understand the question correctly, my answer would be, if the Earth is flat, how did we get to the moon?
Great answer. I didn't follow either of those, but we'll call it there. Somebody else was saying, just finished work, us from Hawaii. I didn't know they used in Hawaii, so us back.
Yeah, shaka, bro.
Shaka. Well, man, Rob, it was fun having you on here. Thanks so much for coming on to You, Me, and Us. I had a lot of fun. And plug yourself. Where can people find you? How can they find your shit and all that good stuff?
Well, first of all, before I hop off of here, I'd like to say that you have the best fucking apparel ever.
Hey.
I love this shirt. As soon as I knew I was going to be on your show, I had to pull out this shirt because it is my favorite. And no, he did not ask me to do that. I legitimately love this fucking shirt. So, and I'm going to convince him to do a commission for me because he did the art. So, but you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter and YouTube. It's all McDojo Life. So whatever the .com is and McDojo Life, And then you will find me in your city eventually. This is a crusade for me. Maybe that's not the right word. This is a mission for me. I'm not going to stop until I can at least shut down some more of these before I die. Like, they don't deserve a seat at the table. These shiesty schools are ripping you off. They're taking your money, and the average person does not know that. So this is basically my cigarette ad campaign. And that was what really stopped people from smoking so much cigarettes, right? They kept posting all this propaganda online. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And eventually everybody knew it was bad. Well, I figure if I do the same thing with martial arts, eventually everybody will know they're full of shit and they won't ever go in the first place. And then I will be out of a job. And then I will be very happy because I cannot find any more shyster videos online.
Well, you're doing God's work, Rob. So from me to you, thank you so much. And I look forward to every video you post. So we will see you on the internet.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Take care.